Okay, so this is take one of me trying to record myself playing Hades for you, Rosa, my audience of one. Hopefully the volume isn't too loud. I did some adjusting before we actually started, but we'll see if it's too bad. I will obviously be wanting feedback from you, telling me in terms of if the sound effects need to be louder, if the music needs to be louder, if I need to be louder, or if the audio levels are fine. Part of it's preference, part of it is it's kind of hard for me to actually tell how loud it is, even though I have been recording it and playing it back to me repeatedly. But here we are. Hopefully it's not too bad and we can keep going. So, which file was it? Ah, yes. We can just delete this one. And I believe this is where I left off. Cloud save. Yep. Okay. Off to the races, I guess. So, last I recalled, we got to Elysium, which is entirely on fire, before we died. We've actually got our first keepsake now, so we can check it out. Actually, we've got our second keepsake now, so hopefully that will be helpful. I generally prefer to use the Chthonic coin purse just for the first level because, well, I say first level, first area, because I don't need as much help as from the others. Let's try switching up for extra darkness because that's something that we could really use. And we've already talked to Scully, and so he will not let us talk to him again. We've already talked to everyone in the house and got all the things we can, so I guess it's time to jump out the window.
I'm ready.
You can buy keep upgrades where... Whoop. Ah yes, Ares.
This one was bound to show up, I guess. In the name of Hades, Olympus, I accept this message.
You've got quite the fighting spirit in you there, I have to say. Most intriguing, and yet no surprise for someone born in hell itself. You come on out of there and tell me all about it. I'm a fellow student of death, you see.
Okay, the first few times that we run into a new god, I will probably shut my mouth so we can actually listen to their voice. However, from then on out, I will probably talk over them and skip it because at times it gets really repetitive. I usually go for either attack upgrades or cast upgrades first. But these are all very solid starting options. Let's go with this one.
More bloodshed then.
I say immediately using a cast, but whatever. Okay, so now that we have a codex from Achilles, it will update as we meet new people, which should be no surprise. It's not necessarily something you want to check in the middle of battle, but after each level it should be fine. As I was saying about the keepsakes, you can get upgrades where you can change your keepsake in between areas. So once you've beat each area's boss, then there's an option to change it out. However, you can only equip each keepsake once per run. And so if you don't change it, you can keep a keepsake for the entire 4 areas on the way out. However, if you swap it out for something else, you can't return to it until the next run. I usually start out with a Chthonic coin purse, which is just more money to start with because I don't necessarily need as many upgrades in the first area. And so the more helpful ones can come in later. Some of the ones I prefer, we have not met the people that they come from yet, and so I can't exactly use them. But we'll get there. So, as I was telling you earlier, Hades is an extremely cathartic game to play because it feels like there's quite nice feedback from smashing enemies. The sound effects are quite pleasing. The game itself is quite pleasing, aside from when you accidentally hit B and open up your boon menu. Problems of playing with a keyboard, but whatever. I I could probably just remap the key if I really felt like it, but I haven't, so here we are. And anyway, so like, for instance, when you're like me and very angry at Adobe and everyone who works for it, playing Hades is quite cathartic, because you can put some of that angry energy to use in a very satisfying manner. I haven't fully showed off what the effects of Ares' boon is, and so if I attack, you'll see the red sword looking thing that appears above an enemy and then falls a moment later. That's called Doom. You can keep attacking once it's been placed. Obviously, I do not believe it stacks. However, it is quite useful. Okay, so I've got 242, so I could probably buy... I'd be able to afford one full boon or a palm, but not very much, so I will probably save my money for a later upgrade and so a later store, and so for now, let's just keep getting darkness. But the Doom, so the delayed damage, is only from like attacks with my sword. I need to check if it works for my special. Okay, I destroyed it in one hit, so that's not super helpful. No, it does not work for the special, just for the regular attack. Which shouldn't surprise me because there are boons specifically for regular attacks. Ouch. Okay, and there we go. Moving onward. The bonus darkness you get from switching up your weapons is quite helpful, especially when you're just starting out and you don't necessarily have a ton. Ah yes, it's this bastard again. That beam attack is something that you will see in later enemies and later bosses, and so it's reminiscent of the crystals, which I hate. However, this one is not an attack that moves. I can't necessarily tell you much about this enemy because this is, as I said, my second time fighting it. However, you can figure some things out pretty well. It obviously focuses attacks based on, well, the light refracts between different offshoots, and okay, it is...
I wonder, nephew, whether you're prepared as yet to harness the surpassing power I shall grant you now. Don't take this blessing.
Okay, after you dash... We're gonna go with this one. Attacks when you dash are incredibly useful. What's this?
Lost souls with nowhere left to turn congregate in deepest Tartarus, where they fuse together with the earth itself into odious forms which defy description. They basically turn into big crystals.
Thanks for translating, Zagreus. It's quite interesting listening to the different gods when they offer you boons, because they all sort of project their personalities and their motivations onto you, even though that is not necessarily what you were like. The Greek pantheon has a, I would say, familiar tendency to be self-centered and narcissistic, and so I think that characteristic is quite interesting. Zagreus has, of course, not led them to believe otherwise. I tend towards the Daedalus hammers because they're a bit rarer than the regular boons. However, the double is quite useful if you can survive the damage that comes from benefited works. Ah yes, the fountain chambers are quite useful. They are a a random appearance for any regular chamber where you can heal instead of having to fight enemies, and there is a regular boon. Let's see here. Some of these look new, but I also don't necessarily use the sword a ton, so... Okay, so... Enemies with a yellow health bar instead of the red, the armor refers to the yellow part of the health bar where you don't have knockback until you've actually depleted the entire yellow bar, and so this just depletes that quicker. The rest is every third. Okay. This one I think is good if you attack a lot, mostly with melee. Let's try this out and see how we go.
Modifier.
Okay, I have a lot less health.
Although I'm full.
The fountain does no real... obviously can't fill more than your health bar. However, you also cannot proceed onward until you have actually used the fountain. So these little yellow lights refer to things you can interact with.
A place of calm and respite, whilst perhaps unimaginable in the underworld, occasionally is to be found, in fact.
And not a moment too soon.
There are fountain chambers in every single area, but you have to actually pay money to unlock them. Well, money I say, but the gems you can get through the level. We are going to get more health because we do not have much at all right now, and so we cannot afford many hits. Okay. Ouch. Okay, so our debuff in terms of having less total health also occurs to health that we gain from here on out, but that's hardly surprising. I think I shouldn't be too bad off, especially considering how I regain health every time I hit someone. Specials are nice, however, it is a bit inconvenient in that it takes a little bit of activation time. And so that's something that I have to keep in mind, and also because I rarely use this attack, then I'm not necessarily super good. I don't have a good grasp of how much time it takes when I'm using it. Okay. Let's see here. Life Essence passive. The passive upgrades can be quite helpful if you know there's a boss coming up. I usually don't get them because I prefer to save my money up for larger items from the actual shop. Okay, so I usually prefer to go for the bomb pots first, whatever they're called, I'm not necessarily sure. And then, because I find they're the most annoying, you can, of course, defend against the witch's attacks by shooting them. Well, if you hit the ranged attack that a witch sends, you can destroy it, however you have to actually hit it. If you hit it with your body, that does not count, and you will take damage. This chamber is slightly different configuration from what I remember. The angled attacks from the statues are different. It's a bit more spread out.
Like this stuff.
Ambrosia is quite useful for getting keepsakes later on, which I am quite looking forward to getting some of the better ones. Though, of course, the one I tend to prefer the most is not until the third level, well, third area, which is quite different. This is not something I've seen before.
Wisdom guide you, cousin.
Ah, a random item. Okay. Let's go with this. Dash attacks are something I really quite prefer. We don't need to buy food. Attack and effects, do dash. We'll go with this because quite helpful. And we've got one ambrosia. If I spend it on Chiron, I know what he will give me because I have played quite a lot of this game. But I think I shall save it for the next person. I really love his character design.
Fine day to you as well there, mate. Now let's have a look at your supplies, shall we?
I appreciate how every time Zagreus talks to him, even though he says nothing in return. So once you reach the boss of each area, you will only get this sort of large-scale reward if it's the first time you beat the boss with that weapon, and then there's also an element later. If I were with the shield, it would be a different reward, which is not one of these, and so the game really encourages you to try out different weapon styles, which keeps things exciting, and there's also the small darkness bonus that it offers.
I'm here, Meg.
Hi, Meg.
Even if you manage to get past me, there's no getting out of Asphodel. You saw what it was like. You really want to go back there?
It's not a matter of want. The way out is there, in that direction, past the River of Flame.
You're more stubborn than your father. I never thought that such a thing was possible.
Okay, I'm going to have to time my dash attacks rather well, because I cannot simply hide behind a shield the way I would prefer to. If you get farther out, then her attacks spread out more. Ouch. And so you can generally avoid them easier, especially if the pillars in the area haven't been destroyed. However, of course, once they are destroyed, there is very little you can do. Okay. Oh. Ouch.
Go home, Zagreus.
As you can tell, I'm not necessarily super practiced with the sword because, as I have repeatedly said, I tend to prefer the shield. However, we'll get there.
I'll get you for that, Meg.
Okay. Oh, conversation.
Oh, hey there, Dusa. How's your endless toil treating you?
Mr. Hypnos, do you maybe think that you could, keep an eye on the procession line before Lord Hades, like you were supposed to?
Oh, that's no problem. I can definitely do that. I'll just add it to the list.
Good, then. Glad we had the chance to chat. Now, maybe get some sleep or something. You look pretty beat.
I think one of my favorite things about Dusa's design is the fact that the snake holding the feather duster is, in fact, blushing. I think that's a really nice touch. Giving a gift to Dusa is surprisingly difficult because after every conversation, she yeets on out of there, and so you have to give a gift to her before that. You can, of course, give a gift to a person who has already given you a keepsake. However, you will not get a second keepsake or upgrade the first keepsake. However, you will upgrade... Ah,
No, this is
I hit the wrong button!
You really shouldn't have. You're spoiling me rotten.
I just happen to think you deserve better than you've got down here, Achilles.
Okay, so, oops. But we have a better relationship with Achilles. As you give people more gifts, then more of these unlock. And it's quite interesting as you unlock more of these conversations, especially with some of the characters that Achilles has interacted with. And so it's quite interesting seeing his thoughts on them, especially someone we have yet to meet who has quite a short description, and that says quite a lot indeed about it.
Your enemy is not the wretched dead, and not your father, lad. It is the underworld itself. It has been fashioned to prevent escape. You must have seen by now how all the chambers seem to rearrange themselves.
The underworld itself, my enemy. I'll do my best anticipating its surprises, sir.
Moving onward, we haven't unlocked this yet, but it plays a role in a cutscene later. Not that you heard that from me. Hades is, of course, annoyed.
Have you yet satisfied your foolish urges? Perhaps a lashing from the Fury's whips would set you straight.
I had it out with them already, thanks.
Such nonsense. First you defy me openly, and now you lie. On my next meeting with the Furies, we'll have a word about all this. You rest assured.
Wish I could be there to see your face. Hey boy, just me again. Here to report, it's pretty dangerous out there even without you on guard duty all the time.
The venerable Hound of Hell barely acknowledges the softly spoken prince's platitude, knowing full well the underworld is not as vigilantly guarded as in ages past.
You don't like it when I pet your other heads, huh? No.
Do not let him manipulate you, Cerberus.
Okay, let's see what we can get from the contractors. Okay, so the Fated List is a sort of achievements thing where you get rewards for everything from using boons to using weapons to getting upgrades, just trying out different things. Keepsake Renewal is quite useful for balancing between levels. However, we haven't necessarily gotten to a point where that's helpful. Infernal Troves are a risk-reward sort of situation. And then there's also, of course, the decorative options that we can add. And you can also repair the lounge, add in new furniture. And we have to meet someone much later to get the music. Well, I say much later, I'm not sure when exactly he will appear, because he was introduced as a character that he was introduced as a character after I had already started playing the game, and so he simply showed up one day, and I'm not sure what day he will show up on. For now, I'll get the lesser rewards, because
Shifting chambers of the underworld ought to be a little livelier with this.
ideally it will make things more helpful, but
Going to help you.
we'll see where we go from here. Okay, so you can see the fur left by Cerberus as well as the claw marks. I don't believe we can talk to the chef. No, we cannot talk to the chef. However, you can dash through the bar. Let's see
The
here.
lounging area within the House of Hades is a dismal place to be, in spite of its intended purpose to enliven the house's grim inhabitants.
It's better than nothing.
Okay, if you see here our...
It's only of a Thanatos Omega up there.
we haven't met him yet. I'm not sure when he shows up.
What's
Later
this
on. Okay, anything we want to trade? Nothing we can afford. So, what does Nyx have to say? Hello, Mother.
Alas, you have seen much of Hypnos lately, child. I hope you find his disposition somewhat tolerable. Please tell me plain if this is not the case.
Oh, he's not so bad, Nyx. Be proud of your sleepy, cheerful son. Who else among us is able to muster that kind of enthusiasm?
I appreciate how Zag always sees the best in other people.
What's the latest?
Okay, moving on, let's see what we can use our darkness for, even though we don't have too much. We don't have enough. We don't have enough for anything. Okay, onward, I guess. I suppose I shall simply have to get better at actually playing. Oh, what does Scully have to say?
Hey, Skelly, you look like you know
Skelly.
your way around Tartarus. Found some of this ancient Titan blood out there, and I was looking to score some more.
Ah, here's an explanation.
Ah, you come to the right place regarding that there, pal. It's your mean weapons back there that can find this stuff. Once you get all the way through Tartarus with one, that's all the blood you're gonna get. For the time being, anyhow.
How am I supposed to keep track of which weapons I've earned these with, then?
I don't know, there's always the invention of writing stuff down. You'll figure something out.
Thanks for the sarcastic answer, Skelly. Let's see here. I do not have enough keys to unlock the sphere, and I think I shall save up my keys for more darkness upgrades. I'm gonna keep this one. As you'll notice, it upgrades as you use it more often, which is kind of an encouragement. There are obviously 3 ranks max you can get, and obviously the number of encounters you need to get through increases as well. I'm not sure what these are because I have not actually unlocked them before. But we're back with my favorite shield. You can check how many chambers you've been through here.
Have probably all rearranged themselves by now.
It's just quite a nice view. I believe there are about 70 if you're going to get all the way to the end. But let's see here. I cannot unlock anything interesting yet, so out the window we go.
Ah,
I have someone new.
This mark, almost like a bat wing. In the name of Hades, Olympus, I accept this message.
Any guesses for who it is?
Hey boss, found you. Good. Hermes, at your service. Pleasure. You are the talk of Olympus. Normally I wouldn't get mixed up, but for you, I'll be making an exception. Now come on, we've both got places to be.
I appreciate just how fast Hermes always talks. I also appreciate how you can tell just how much loving design went into the thighs of all the Olympians. If you haven't noticed that by now, maybe from now on you will notice it. There are beefy thighs on all of them, and it is wonderful. Okay, so as you would expect, Hermes has mostly speed upgrades. And we're probably going to go with movement speed.
Appreciate the lift, Lord Hermes, sir. Now let's go. That's what you get.
So, Zagreus does look a little funny because he simply runs faster. However, I do not have time to focus on his running, considering that I am trying not to get shot or headbutted, as the case may be. Okay. The little summoning circles for showing you where enemies will show up is quite useful if you want to plan out an attack beforehand, especially with other weapons that have more of a long time ranged attack. You can usually get a good sense of how long it will take something to show up. And smack. Chaining the bull rush, as it's called, with the charged shield dash sort of thing, is quite helpful for making use of the sort of telegraphed warning you get from enemies appearing. So, unlike other weapons with a charged attack, though they of course don't necessarily charge as long as this one, if you recall the time spent charging the sort of area sword attack, it's much less than the shield. However, if you are facing the right direction, you can, of course, guard against attacks while you are charging, which I find to be quite useful. If you don't charge it up as much, you obviously don't go as far. And you can get different upgrades for that, which we're after the races. Okay, let's find out what we get. Ah yes, of course they are shielded. What else? Haha, got it. The part of the reason I don't like the crystals so much is they are a pain to shield against. Ah yes, okay, so let's see here. I'll probably go with this one. So,
What do we have?
there are also some upgrades you can get where, for instance, you'll have upgraded rarity on boons you receive for the next few encounters, which is quite useful.
Let's see what's
But
up
I
to
haven't
say.
seen that yet. That's why I usually will check, even if I'm not certain. And our friend Artemis, you don't necessarily get the talking when you buy from Charon's store, but sometimes they will comment on the fact that that's where you're finding their boon, which can be quite fun. Okay, so if you look over here, you can see what sort of boons you've got for your main ones. So your main attack, your special, your cast, a dash attack, and your call, if that's what it's called, which I don't remember. Dash strike is when you dash and then attack immediately after. I appreciate that they define all of the highlighted terms off to the right. Let's go with this one.
Let's hunt some dead.
And
Always
we've got one life left. I appreciate that he only has one eye. Okay. On we go. Is it going to be the crystal? Yes, it is! Okay. Ouch. Though all of these smaller crystals will of course disappear once you defeat the main one, I've quickly realized that it is quite useful to also be defeating the smaller ones so that its attack is much less useful because it is not deflecting on a bunch of areas. Okay. I love Athena's character design.
We Olympians rarely consort with the chthonic gods, though Nyx herself reached out to me about your plight and I was spurred to act.
Nyx is, of course, your contact who got you in touch with the Olympians. If you'll note here, this comment about her being my mother is quite interesting and also directly contradictory to mythology, but we'll get to that later. Okay, so sure footing is only really helpful if you do not have sure footing. If I am allowed to make a joke like that, but this is not a call, this is a recording, and so you cannot stop me. I am, of course, very upset about the fact that the little bomber pots do not cause friendly fire damage, which I think is quite unfair, but such is life, or death as the case may be. Should I go for more health or go big or go home, I suppose? Let's see here. Who are we going to pick?
That must be one of those infernal troves.
Yes, we just got that. You can only open them after you've defeated the actual encounter itself, and it is not required. Oh, I have to pick between two people I like. Attack-wise, I think Artemis's will be more... No, I think Athena's will be more inconvenient than Artemis's, and that's usually what I go for. Who would be more inconvenient to fight. Do not have a dash. Usually, you won't get boons from every single god every single run. Not because you won't run into enough boons, well, if you die quickly, if you won't, but usually because if you have a boon from one god, you're more likely to get a second boon from that god. And there's more about that later on, once we get to the third area, which we have not gotten close to. Okay, let's go with the dash, which is quite helpful. I'm sorry, my dear Artemis, with the lovely thighs. I'm sorry.
No hard feelings, Lady Artemis.
But I figured she would have... Ah, yes, this. Ranged attacks, which are a pain. The type of enemies that you'll face in the boon, well, the challenge, are also related to the whoever you've offended. So for instance, if it's Aphrodite, it will be the pink crystals. With Artemis, it is obviously some sort of ranged attack. This is the cast with from Athena, which deflects, and it is quite useful now that I've gotten knocked around a bit.
So what? Here, why not take a boon and then be off?
And so everything is fine from here on out, which I think is a fun aspect. Do I have anything dealing a critical? My regular attack deals a critical. Oh, darn, I misclicked. Okay, I would have gone with the top one, but we'll just use this. Okay, so this means a person in the area that you can actually interact with. And I can check my things here. So in this case, it's Sisyphus. In the next area, it's someone we haven't met. And in the area after that, it is someone that we obviously have not met either. But he's a fun guy to talk to.
Hey, Princette. Must look like I'm slacking off with the old boulder here, but I was just getting back on my feet. The Fury Sisters don't often leave me be. Where'd they go, anyway? And, what are you doing here?
Well, you know, just out on a little stroll is all. Do me a favor, though. You see the Fury Sisters, let them know I was headed down the way I came from, will you?
Oh, I'll let them know, all right. I hear you loud and clear, Your Highness. I'll just go about my business now, and you take care.
Each of the sort of friendly NPCs you can encounter in each area will offer you a different sort of benefit. So this is simply healing, darkness, or money. We're going to go with healing because that's what I have a shortage of.
Thank you, mate.
I appreciate how the food is €1 and fries. The NPC chambers will show up at different pacing. And so, for instance, sometimes you will run into him in the chamber directly before the final boss fight, well, for the area. So, thus far before fighting Meg. Though, of course, there are 2 other Fury Sisters that we have yet to meet, but thanks to the Murder Death Kill update, eventually we will run into them. I'm not sure at what point in the story you run into them, but it was a nice welcome change from fighting Meg every single time.
You've had a brush with Mega the Fury, haven't you? Oh, I know a thing or two about that one. Though lately we Olympians no longer mingle with those living in the underworld. You're the only exception.
Okay. Special deals more damage and inflicts weak. Those who slain and damage nearby enemies. This one is quite useful. I don't necessarily use my special a ton right now, because when you use the shield throw, which is your special, you obviously do not have a shield to attack with, so you have to be quite careful about that. So let's go with the Dying Lament.
No love without pain.
Okay, so we can go the hard route, or the easy route. And often there's some sort of bonus for picking the hard route, but we will obviously find out. Having the color-coded effects from... Ah yes, see? We got 2 keys instead of 1. High risk, high reward. We are good for food, we are good for, well, health, we are good for money. The next chamber is probably, after this, is probably going to be the Furies. Usually how it turns out is you will have an option for Charon Shop halfway through an area, and then also right before a boss. I if you do not have two options for where to go through, that's one way to tell. We've already talked to Charon, and so we cannot talk to him a second time. We do not have the money for any of the boons, and so this chamber is simply a way to gain an extra +3 health from the little upgrade we've got. Okay.
And there you are again. Lord Hades ought to lock you up rather than let you run amok in his domain like this.
I'm sure he'd welcome all this feedback from you, Meg. Oh.
I have no envy for your father's position. Besides, I happen to enjoy my own responsibilities.
I also love her earrings, her nose ring, and the fact that she has at least 2 eyebrow piercings. I find that using the shield rush to actually catch up with her when she dashes away can be quite helpful. If you stay nearby to her, you can use a short shield dash to actually get out of the attack range, but you can't dash super far because you don't have time to charge it. Of the Furies, she summons the most enemies alongside of her. The others do not quite do that as much, though they'd all have the Imperious moments where you cannot actually damage them, but they are prepared for some sort of large attack. In her case, as she's summoning new enemies. Oops. Ouch. Got her. It used to be a green pool that she would fall into, and so I'm not sure why that's changed. But, oh wow, we are on low health. But hey, we got double darkness. Proceeding onward. That is a pitiful amount of health.
Don't mind me, Father.
Can I break these things? No, I cannot. I like how they added an element of showing how the buildings move around. Well, the rooms move around. Okay. This is pretty helpful if you're destroying enough enemies. But we are not. Okay, so you can trade boons. The higher the boon, the more money you get, obviously, but the higher the boon, the more it hurts you, because that's just the way of these things. I might get rid of movement speed. Yes. That was a newer element, but proceeding onward. As you can tell, I've already gotten the Titan blood from this area, and so it is checked off. Back in Asphodel. I love how vibrant their games are.
The bloodless lie in wait out there, I guess.
The bloodless are the little attacking... Well, I say little. The attacking skeletons who tend to send force wave attacks, who are extremely, extremely obnoxious. Like this. This is a bloodless. If you can manage to deflect their attacks, that can be quite useful. But they also have some serious knockback. My favorite game to play is the knock them in the lava, because sometimes they will jump right out, and other times they will not. So, there are at least 3 different variations of the jumpy skeleton guy who throws bombs. This one is, I think, one of the largest. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same shade as the bosses that you fight in the first area. These up, yep. Burn Flinger. This is perhaps the one that we just encountered, yes. So, there is also a smaller one that throws bombs instead of in an arc directly at you. Okay, who do we want to upgrade? Blast damage, dash. Mark chance. Let's go with Dying Lament. Okay, so Palm or Hermes or money. We're running. We don't have a ton of cash, so let's head this one. I love the little candle-like ghosts you've got. Well, spirits. I'm not sure if they're. Is there such a thing as a ghost in the underworld? I'm not sure. Haven't thought about the logistics of that. The first crop of enemies in an area will generally not attack you until you get to within a certain range of them, and then from there on out the enemies will spawn around you. The skeletons in the Asphodel have a tendency to immediately jump the first time they appear, and so then you have to hit them right away if you want to damage them. For the lava, you have a very brief period of time where if you aren't there for long enough, then you will not take damage, and so if you have enough dashes and you are daring about it, you can dash directly across it without taking damage. But if you get caught in the middle, watch out. Okay, we've got 322, so we can buy at least 2 things, so let's go onward. Oftentimes, if you pick the Charon Well halfway through, you will end up encountering another enemy, well, a boss. Let's go with this.
Cheers, mate.
I give to you this token of respect, buried though it must have been within the boatman's hoard.
See, reference where it's from. Okay, special inflicts doom. Call is quite helpful. Okay, this one's pretty based too. We'll go with this one because it's quite useful to have. I do not have enough money for both, so let's get the heart because I am low on health. I cannot obviously talk to him a second time. And yes, here we go. Boss time. I wonder if this is who I think it will be. Ah, yes. Her.
You're not due, sir.
Ah, yes. In case you didn't notice, I dashed too far and ended up in the lava. This boss is actually a 2-for-1, because the Medusa on her own cannot do a ton of damage. However, if you get petrified and then a giant skull drops on top of you, that does a significant amount of damage. And so if you can take out one, obviously the other becomes much easier, because on its own the skull is not difficult to attack. If you notice, that was my call. You can either use it in small sections, so these little segments here, ouch, or you can save it up and then you will be able to use it for longer total. So the Medusa head can also, well, the Gorgon head can also freeze your enemies, which is quite convenient.
possessing my own, you shall be nigh unstoppable.
The gods will often comment on other people you have boons from, which is quite fun. This is one I had last time. And let's go with my special because I don't have something for that yet, as I can check over there. Oh. Okay, that's also really useful, but we'll go with the special because I don't have that yet.
I feel all tingly.
Okay, so let's get some jewels. Of course they're armored up. Yikes. I appreciate that for each boon, it adds some sort of colored change to your attacks. So if you'll notice the little green spiral thing I have when I hit, they are of course color-coded to the different god you got it from. With the bomb throwers, you have to watch out because oftentimes when they die, they will drop a bomb in the area, and so they will still damage you even though you are technically done with the encounter, or if you are in the middle of the encounter. So I can pick either a pomegranate, let's see what I have here, which I probably will go, or another boon. You can just simply stack them or improve the ones you already have. Let's go with this one because the ones I have right now are not necessarily as strong as it could be, obviously, because I have not been upgrading them. So it can be quite inconvenient if you've got bad luck with the boons, and so if you simply have not been lucky, you could end up with a bunch of boons, but none of them for your basic attack. And so you end up a lot weaker because you don't have just the basic attack doing more damage. They usually give about like 30 or 40% damage boost every attack. Ouch. Which adds up quite a lot. Especially if you don't have it. So, continuing onward.
So did everybody miss me?
You can, of course, run over the ghosts, and they will disappear, and then show up later. Yep. It is quite common for enemies to just disappear.
Say, I was wondering, Achilles, any news of Orpheus of late? I've not seen him around here in some time. He's still paying his dues?
Orpheus sound familiar?
That I believe he is, lad. Your father, he was none too pleased with him last time I saw him here. I tried my best to simmer down the situation, but you know how it goes. I hope your father cuts his sentence short.
It's quite funny how oftentimes in this game Achilles plays the role of peacemaker.
I hope so too. If you do see him, tell him I said hi.
They've made him much more noble in the modern sense.
Hey, I know you.
Than in the more classic Greek sense, but it's interesting.
Already, Cerberus, just as I indicated.
I'm standing right here, Father.
I'm sorry he disturbed your rest again, Cerberus. You've done a good job. The realm is well defended still to the high standard that you set.
It's quite funny to me how Zagreus and Hades both do not get along. However, they both greatly love Cerberus.
Cerberus promises to do exactly that, in his own way.
Let's pet him for good measure. Because it would be a waste otherwise. You can actually buy him a bed. I do not have money to spend on upgrades like that, but we will get there. So this used to actually be a wall of scrolls like this, but now we've got this beautiful mural. Also, his face is kind of funny, but whatever. What do we have here? Let's see. Keepsake collection. Oh, something new. Candles. Okay. Do we have anything for Cerberus? No. Seating. Let's repair. The court music is, of course, as you would probably guess, related to Orpheus. I still don't need to switch out keepsakes between areas, so we will put off on that for now, but I can listen in on this conversation.
We each have our commitments to this house, Megara. There is no shame in yours. And whilst your sisters are away, you bear their burden of responsibility as well.
I understand. It's just... Am I supposed to keep pretending nothing's changed? This house is cracking at the seams, and no one's going to admit it?
The house shall stand eternally. Although in what condition, it is ours to decide. Our obligation is to keep the house in order.
I know. You're right, of course you're right. I'll do my best. I'll do my best for both our sakes, Nix.
What was that about?
Obviously, something has been going wrong, but we are not privy to what it is, though we will get some flashbacks later on.
Let's see here.
I always check here in case there's something good, even though I generally cannot afford the trades / do not have the resources to spare. Deuce up, Deusa. I did not realize she was... Ah, yes! We're getting a cutscene right after this.
I hope you're having a nice day. Even though you don't want to live here anymore, Your Highness.
Such a sweetheart.
And there she goes again.
Go lie down. Nice and subtle. Let's get an upgrade first.
Have a look here.
Okay, greater reflex. Yes. We want another dash. But also Death Defiance. Death Defiance. Oh, those are expensive. Backs up. Let's save up for the dash.
Ready, I think.
Okay. Let's rest.
It is the dead of night, or the approximation of it in the realm of Hades. Prince of the underworld Zagreus rises from a fitful slumber, with much mischief on his mind.
Mischief? Me? I was just going to have a little look through Father's stuff.
This is one of the funniest parts in the game. We obviously cannot go this way because it is not letting me. What's this here?
All is quiet at this time. Ever-dreaming Hypnos put a spell upon the house, as willful Zagreus had asked of him. All are fast asleep, save for the prince. It is exactly as he planned.
Lower your voice, old man. I'm trying to be sneaky here.
Obviously, we cannot use the mirror either, considering it is closed.
He ventures toward the stately throne of his lord father, half expecting to be caught, but ill expecting what he is about to find.
I said shut up, old man.
Lounge is closed. It used to be that you would dig through the scrolls back here, but obviously not.
He does not know exactly what he seeks. He only knows that something always has felt off to him, that he does not belong. Who is he, really? Lord Hades never would indulge such questions, so Prince Zagreus would find out for himself.
I'm not listening.
Can I go back there? No, I cannot. Can I go up here? No, I cannot. What's this on the desk? I think we have to go up and around. Up.
He rifles through his lord father's possessions. There is not much of any import there. Ledgers and administrative parchment work. Correspondence from Olympus which he had ignored. No trace of any reference to his son.
What's this over here?
But then, there is the note. Written finally in a hand and voice the likes of which the prince had never seen or heard.
Hades, I can no longer tolerate my life here in this place. So I'm leaving, even if it kills me. I won't be returning to Olympus. If there is a place where I belong in this world, it must be somewhere between heaven and hell. Perhaps it's on the coast and has a little garden. Take care of Cerberus. I shall miss him. Persephone.
Thus did Prince of the Underworld Zagreus absorb the contents of this hidden letter, written in his mother's hand.
His mother's hand? My mother's hand? Wait, what? You're saying this Persephone, that she's my mother? But Father always said that Nyx was that liar. He lied to me. They both did. All my life.
Thus did the prince discover, inadvertently, the well-kept truth about his lineage. Entirely by chance, this did occur.
Dude gave the game away! The narrator blabbed on and gave the game away, and he wouldn't have found out without it.
Persephone, the one-time queen of all the underworld. Where had she gone? And why? Engulfed by newfound questions and his rage, the prince decided to confront his lord and master.
You... why? You're... Nyx, you're not my mother. All this time, you and my father, you lied to me?
Oh, my dear child. So now you know. So now you know. But only half the truth. I can explain the rest, so... please. It never was my wish to hurt you.
Mother, I wonder, will you even remember me?
So there's some fun backstory. It's quite a lot to think about, and this is the reasoning for why we are so desperate to break out of the underworld, because we want to meet our mom.
Through all that, the way to the surface.
So there's also really interesting character design in terms of the little branches that Zagreus wears, a little crown garland thing, I don't know what the word for it is, that are always shedding leaves, as well as his one red eye and his one green eye.
Gotta say, you're really getting somewhere, boy. Oh, I'm pretty impressed here. And they don't even pay me to do that. I'm just supposed to stand around.
Appreciate the vote of confidence, mate. Maybe you're right, and someday I'll get out of here. Hey, if I never come back, you won't just be stuck here forever, will you?
That's a good one. No, probably not. Wasn't anything in the old contract about that.
We of course still don't know who paid Skelly to help us out here, but let's buy a spear.
The eternal spear. Join my pursuit.
Get anything good?
With the special, you can do double damage on the way there and on the way back. If you time it right, you can get a backstab, which of course does more damage. Watching Skelly's little animation where he has to put his head on straight is quite fun. You'll look here, we've got the bonus, so we get extra darkness, thanks to this encouraging us to change up our weapon choice. So we've got press and hold for the swing attack, regular attack, and then the call and return. Right? I'm not missing any, right? Yeah. Strike, hold, release, Q, and you can also do a dash strike. Which is more of a forward-reaching attack than the other ones. So, onward out the window.
Family. Death is your only family. Death and I. Best get accustomed to the both of us.
Thanks, Dad.
No, not on your life.
You'll get those fun little screens every once in a while. If you note down here, this is our Death Defiance, which we will see later. It is quite obvious when it gets used.
The eternal spear we call Varatha. So then it wasn't lost during the war. A magnificent weapon in deserving hands.
Okay, attack, special, cast. attack. Sad to know there isn't a backstab on a pile of skulls, but I'm hardly surprised, just disappointed. Most of the weapons have some sort of range option aside from the cast, which is quite useful. Even if there is sort of you have to commit to it a bit more, because if you throw your weapon, you will not have your weapon until you get it back. Simple mathematics like that. So we can either go the health route or the boon route. I tend to power up and then get health later, but personal preference and all that. I also am rather partial to Ares. I find the curse quite useful, well, doom as it's called, and I like what he does with the cast. I think it's quite fun. Let's see.
That you have slain more than 100 foes since you began your quest. You have, for I am keeping count, and I am most impressed.
Okay, special inflicts doom. Yes, the call, I had it earlier and I'd used it a little bit, which you kind of gotten a glimpse of it. I might actually go up with this one because it's more just a general across the board upgrade. Ares is definitely one of the gods where you can clearly see he is sort of applying his personality to yours. In terms of assuming you like the same things, care about the same things, which, you know, is in this case is death and violence. But obviously now you know that is not our motivation. But he does not know that, because we have not told him, because we have somewhat misled the Olympians just a tad about our motivations. Okay, so money or more upgrades? Let's go with upgrades, because why not? Ah yes, this is a new thing that we can encounter, and I will show you. Ouch. Okay. Damage from traps, no thanks. Death Defiance restores more health than usual. Replenish one use. Let's go with this, because I only have one room for one Death Defiance and I don't want to waste it. So this is a Chaos Gate. I'm not sure if you can hear this. The little whispering like they have in Thief. Let's descend into the depths.
All I need to do is sacrifice some of my life essence to go in here. Oh, I don't see why not.
They greatly improved the cost needed for Chaos Gates. It used to be approximately 6 health instead of 21, and so 2 encounters was enough to heal from entirely. That is not the case anymore.
Within the underworld's quietest, most solitary, darkest abyss lies hidden evidence of the beginning of all things, of chaos, the most ancient sculptor that has shaped this world.
I'd best take all the evidence I find.
I think this is a beautiful area, and I love being here, with the way you're in space, and yet there's also the water reflections around you. It's very pretty. And ready for some character design?
This is not someone I recognize. So, in the name of Hades, hello, may I ask who's calling?
Not the normal response.
Have we met?
We have met in a way. I know everybody here and there. You wish to leave this place, and it is my wish to make your doing so a little bit more interesting. And if you encounter the Olympians someday, do give them my regards.
The sound mixing is quite interesting. That's Chaos, BTW. I hope you noticed the little eye on Chaos's forehead, which is reminiscent of the Chaos Gates, obviously. Chaos is very much a risk-reward sort of situation, so for a limited amount of time you will have a debuff, and later it will turn into a buff. And so you have to figure out both what sort of punishments you can handle for encounters, but also what sort of reward will be the most helpful, and so balancing that. Oftentimes it'll be something like you can't use your special, you can't use your regular attack, you can't use your regular cast, obviously here. But then there's a buff. Okay, do we want money? Do we want darkness and gems? I think we shall go for this. So I cannot use my cast, which hopefully I will remember before I take too much damage.
Chaos to extract the benefits a few chambers from now.
So it will show up here with the number of encounters you have left. Encounters, you have to actually have an enemy. If you'll notice, there's fun distortion here now that we've picked it up. But there's nothing else here for us, so let's continue onward. Ah yes, this guy again. Obviously there is nowhere to backstab on a thing that has faces on all sides and no back,
Tortured souls trapped in a crystal thing.
which is a pain.
You're getting somewhere, man. I understand you made it up to Asphodel before. Now that is progress. Keep it up. You keep on going, yeah?
Oh, yes.
In case you noticed, well, in case you didn't notice, Dionysus is someone with very beefy thighs. Okay, so this is useful only if you encounter a fountain. So there is the fountain chambers, there's also the fountain in between areas. They are not super common. Hangover is extra damage. This is quite useful. This is also quite useful, especially when it's a higher level threshold. So just under half. I think I will go with this and play it safe, because I do not have a ton of health. Let's get some ambrosia. Hopefully I can give it to Dusa this time. What have we got? Ah yes, these. Ouch, that was a poor decision. In case you had not forgotten, well no, in case you had forgotten like me, I cannot currently use a cast because I've got the little, I suppose bet would be not an accurate word with the entity of chaos who lives in our basement.
What do we have here?
Okay.
Sweet.
So I believe this is the, yes, so this is the, if you'll notice I gained 6 health, which is the benefit of the boon we just picked up from Dionysus. The spear is very good for pointed attacks, and so you have to be a bit more specific about where you're throwing it. Unlike the spear, it will not bounce, not the spear, unlike the shield, it will not bounce off of things, and so you have to aim it a bit better. Okay. This sort of weapon is much more convenient with a, excuse me, mouse and keyboard setup, because, well, my voice, where you aim is a lot more pointed. Gosh. Okay, this means there's probably a boss after this area. Or not. Never mind. I figured wrong. Gosh, I sound like I'm going through puberty. Okay. Luckily, with the spear throw, it will pierce through multiple enemies if you can line them up correctly. Kind of like a needle. Got him.
My chaos boon switched to a new effect.
Okay, so now, if we look at our boons again, more darkness and gems, which is what we want. Speaking of, here's some darkness now.
Out of my way.
Luckily, the gems cannot easily switch where they are attacking, and so once they start shooting at you, until they stop and reset, they can only simply slowly follow you with their attack, and so if you attack them, and so if you sort of trigger their attack and then quickly move out of the way, they will slowly try and follow you. However, that requires you actually moving out of the way afterwards, which I am not necessarily super great at, as you may or may not be able to tell. Ouch. Okay, now we've got a boss up next. After this, I mean. Charon's not a boss. Okay, so we can buy 30 health, which I do not have money for all three, so let's get this first. I don't necessarily have a ton of boons.
Strewn among the inventories of that most disturbing river boatman. That means you win my blessing.
Okay. Special deals more damage and knock foes away. This is convenient too. Let's go with this.
Cheers, Uncle.
You have to balance the when you're given a choice between chambers, you have to balance between permanent upgrades that will help you later, so things like darkness, or temporary things that will help you now, like boons, because obviously the more powerful you are, the farther you can get and the more rewards you can get. However, if you upgrade long term, then you will get farther later on, and so that's something you have to keep in mind as you're playing. Let's see here. Attack is stronger, special, or cast. Let's go with special, because I've been using that a bit more. What's Charon have to say?
Hey, Charon. If there happens to be something really horrible awaiting me beyond that door, then give me a sign, won't you? Great.
Let's see if it's still Meg. It is.
Listen to me, Zagreus. Your mother is long gone. You're never getting out of here, and even if you did, what hope could you possibly have in finding her up in the world out there?
I've hope enough. Not that it's any of your business anymore.
Your family is here, and so is your responsibility. You're running from yourself. Though, I can slow you down a bit, I think.
Oh yes, now I'll have to dodge a bit more. I keep thinking I've got the shield still. I'll have to be much more evasive in my attacks instead of simply, you know, cowering behind a shield like I normally do. Ouch. Okay, Death Defied. It has a very clear appearance, so you can tell when it happens. Over time, they've definitely played up just how noticeable it is. Let's see where she is. I can't even tell where she is. There she is. Ah. Ouch. Ouch. Just barely caught me on the edge. Thanks, Meg.
Oh, you win this round, Meg.
Megra the Fury got you again. She is unstoppable, isn't she? One time, I tried to stop her on the way to have a chat with your dad, and she didn't even turn her head.
Oh.
My condolences.
Back again.
Yes. Let's get this item.
Miss Dusa, I wanted you to have this. It's nothing really, just for your hard work.
Prince, I'm really grateful for this, really, and I thought I kind of got something for you.
Thanks, Miss Dusa.
This is so useful. Oh, let's chat.
Prince, your father, I think he's pretty steamed right now about something, so maybe you could stay away from him, or I could tell him you're not here.
That's quite all right, Dusa. I'm not afraid of him, and neither should you be. You're the best help he's ever found.
Just doing my job here, Prince.
She's such a sweetheart.
Hey, Achilles. My father's hall back there. I don't suppose you'll let me have myself a look. Lots for me to rummage through, I'm sure.
You know I'd do just about anything to aid you, lad. But my ability to do so hinges on me sticking to my post. Though if I do catch wind of anything back there requiring attention, you shall know.
Understood, sir.
Let's see what Dad has to
How's
say.
everything been going lately, boy? What's the good word?
The Underworld Prince's casual inquiry serves but to frustrate the infernal hound, as none of his three heads possess the gift and curse of speech.
Let's see what Dad has to say.
I believe my eyes. Is that you, boy? Cerberus, look who it is. He's back.
He's so sarcastic.
Cerberus looks mournfully toward the prince.
No need to drag the dog into this, father.
Anything you say to me, you say in front of Cerberus. You might even learn a thing or two from him of listening and of obedience.
Thanks, Dad. Let's see here. 20. So we will probably go with this.
Contractor, I have another job. The fated list of minor prophecies. That sounds somewhat exciting, I suppose.
For later.
Requisition that useless bit of parchment.
Thanks. Yes, more health. Oh, this is quite useful. Too bad we don't have the money for it, but we'll get there.
Goddess Athena, Nix. She seems to admire you. I thought Olympians didn't like our kind.
They typically do not. But you are family, child. And I believed Athena wise enough to understand why someone such as I would seek her in particular. She has in turn made others in her family aware.
You make a good team.
Obviously, Athena's the first contact that we had with the Olympians, which, if I recall correctly, she is the first boon you get. I don't have any money for affording any of these, so it is, of course, locked to me, but later.
Hey, that must be the fated list.
Ah, yes, the fated list.
Pleasure doing business with you, Fates. My extended family seems an interesting lot.
Okay. Someday break free. We have not met everyone yet. I'm trying to think of who else. Oh, yep. 3 more. Goddess of Wisdom. This is for having all of the boons. This is earning all of the duo boons, which is quite a lot. This is acquiring all of the weapons, all the Daedalus upgrades. That's quite a lot of things. Unlocking the codex. Just different things like this that add up and you get different rewards for it. There are some you find out about later that we do not yet have.
The legend prince perhaps believes it was through his own choice that he procured the fated list of minor prophecies, but it was preordained.
Oh no, not this determinism thing again.
There is, of course, the funny little joke that because you have these list of prophecies and the rewards for the prophecies, you are, of course, going to, you know, complete the prophecies. But what do I know about that? Okay, let's get another dash. And then Boiling Blood or Backstab. Let's save up for the Infernal Soul. Because another cast is useful. Now, let's talk to Scully real quick.
Skelly, you mentioned the ancient bit of blood I found in Tartarus. Know what I'm supposed to do with this stuff?
Wouldn't know a thing about it. Definitely
Yep, still unavailable. He told us that earlier. We will get that next. For now, Broken Urns have a 3% chance to contain healing items, which is quite the useful upgrade, if I do say so myself, which we will equip that for now.
Okay.
Let's see here. Oh, what's this?
The courtyard of the House of Hades is kept neat and orderly, in contrast to the terrifying sprawl that lies beyond.
It's not that orderly, really.
And I think I'm going to call it a night for here. So, it is already almost an hour and a half, and hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully the sound quality wasn't too awful. But we shall find out, of course.